Today we will go with the pipeline based, I mean, declarative pipeline. Okay, we call it as declarative pipeline. Declarative pipeline. So declarative pipeline, coming to Jenkins, we use one language called Groovy. Groovy scripting. Okay. I will show you one sample Groovy scripting. So my screen is visible, right? Visual Studio Code.
No,
Sorry, not.
it's just a whiteboard. We
No,
can
it's
see.
not right.
Mhm.
So this is a sample Groovy script for creating a CI/CD pipeline using Jenkins. So Groovy is human readable language. Anyone, just can you read, all of you, and what are things that you got? Okay, I will explain. So every scripted or Groovy's pipeline, declarative Groovy pipeline start with the syntax pipeline. Okay, pipeline. Then we need to open a curly brace. Then we need to define the agent. Yesterday we discussed like a master slave setup. So we set up a EC2 machine, EC2 VM, and we install Jenkins here. And we make this one as master or the controller. Okay, Jenkins controller. Make this machine as a Jenkins controller and set up another machine. And we make the second one as slave. For that, also in this case, all the build happen in the slave machine. Okay. Otherwise, all the builds, I mean, all the process that Jenkins pipeline will do on the same machine. So these machines, it will take that machines on memory and CPU utilization. So that's not a best practice when coming to production level Jenkins setup. So here you can see the agent. So agent any means that Jenkins will execute or build process happening on any of the machine. Okay. So if, for example, we install Jenkins in a single machine, that means the same machine will be the job executor or the process will happen on the same machine. So if we have any other mission, like we set up a master slave setup, we need to define the agent name here, okay, instead of any. So for example, the not name, we can define the non-name, like the agent, we need to define the name. So this part for the agent, okay. So Jenkins will execute that pipeline process on that specific node or specific agent. Then coming to the tools. This is the tools that we configure within Jenkins, okay. So in this case, we you configure two tools for this specific pipeline. So that we need to define here, okay. The tool type and tool name. So this is the format, tool type and tool name. Tool type means JDK. This is a common thing that we configure in Jenkins, and the name that we define for that specific tool is JDK 17. Similar way, Maven and Maven 3. Then one environment that we using for SonarQube. So in this pipeline, we use SonarQube for static code analysis. So we need to define SonarQube as environment in that pipeline. Similar way like this. Environment, then we need to open a curly, then scanner home, tool name. This is a format. So this will be the name that we configure in Jenkins. Okay. Coming to Jenkins, we configure a tool for SonarQube under the tool section. That's why here we can mention the tools. Okay. And we define the name for SonarQube. Then close the curly. Okay. Here we close for tool, we open a curly and close here. For pipeline, we close the bottom only. Okay. At last. And open another curly for that environment, we close it here. Then this is the main part, stages. So what are the stages that we are going to define for our pipeline? Okay, as per the requirement, we need to add stage. So the first stage here you can see, yeah, stages. We open the curly. Then under the stages, we need to define the stage. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, like that. So open a curly here, and we need to close this curly at the last. Okay. So again, we open the first stage. This is our first stage. First stage, we need to define the name. Any name we can define here, and we need to open the first stage curly here. Then, if any step or any command we need to run, we can use under the steps. Okay. So this will be the command. Under the step, we can execute the command clean WS. This is for cleaning the workspace. So it will run the command clean WS. So the first stage completed. Then the Jenkins will go to the second stage. Here you can see we close that first stage. Okay. For the step, we close here, and for the stage 1, we close here. Again, we open another stage and we define a name. Check out SCM. That means taking the application code from GitHub. Okay. So open. Similar way, we need to provide the command under the step. So we need to define that command to getting the code from the repository. Close it here. Similar way, again another stage open. This is for a Java application. Okay. Java application workflow. First, we need to compile the code. Compile code. Then test. Then build. This is a format for Java code. Okay. These all the steps we use Maven command, MVN. Maven compile. This is a command. See, MVN clean compile. This is a command that we need to compile the entire application code. Then MVN test. This is for the testing our code application. So this is a specific stage for each process. For example, compiling, testing, building, like that. Building we doing after the SonarQube analysis. Okay. So first, in this case, we can see compiling happened and Maven test also completed. Then another stage that is for sonar cube analysis. Okay. Coming to sonar cube analysis, we create a separate stage and provide the name. Then we need to run some command under the steps. And this is a syntax actually. Say Jenkins syntax for integrating or interact with the Sonar Cube. So we need to take this command from Jenkins with the Sonar environment, Sonar Cube environment. So we need to define the Sonar Cube environment, that is Sonar Cube, that these things we configured under Jenkins, okay? The name and everything. Then there is a script we run, Sonar Cube scanner property. This is a small script that we running to create a project name under the Sonar Cube. So after this build, okay, this stage, we can see there is a project created under Sonar Cube project directory, and we can see all the code details. I mean, the scan details under the project. The project belongs to Sonar Cube, okay, Sonar Cube. So this will be the name. So if we change the name, then we need to define it here. Then quality gates. This is a feature of Sonar Cube. So if all the codes are good, okay, then the gate will open and we go to the next stage. If any issues here, like any bugs or vulnerabilities, spot smell, anything we identify here, okay, then that gate will close, okay, the pipeline will fail, and we need to troubleshoot that code base. If everything okay, Sonar Cube gate will open and we go to the next stage. So this is actually a gate process, similar like a, if the code is good, it will go okay. The gate will pass that code to the next stage. Then yeah, after the code validation and code scanning, we are good to build that application using Maven, MVN. This is a command to build a Java-based application. Okay, MVN clean install. That's the command. So it will create a Java application that is .war file. So this is a file format that we use for deploying Java-based application. So this is the image actually. Okay, this is the image. That image contain all the application metadata. Then so yeah, building it completed. Now we need to scanning dependency check. Okay. Yeah, got it. So dependency check. Okay. When we use in dependency check means we use a tool here. Okay, dependency check. That name is OWASP. OWASP is a tool to scanning dependencies that we use in our application. So in this case, you can see Maven clean install. Whenever we run that Maven clean install, what will happen? There is some dependency for the same application. Okay, so the developer will add that part inside that directory. Okay, package.json, I think. Yeah, package.json. That's a file. So inside the file, they define all the dependency. Okay, so whenever the build start, that MVN looking for the package.json also and download that all that dependency that mentioned that package.json file. So that all that dependency will download from internet. So we need to scan that packages as well. So here we use our OWASP tool to scanning the dependency. Any vulnerability or anything inside the dependency, we need to ensure that. before deploying to production. So here we use OWSP dependency checking tool. So after dependency check completed, okay, we are mostly good because we scanning the code using SonarQube. Okay, SonarQube. Then we check like dependencies, the things that we downloaded from internet for running the specific application. Okay, so we scanning the dependency check as well using OWSP. The next thing is we are good to create the Docker file. Okay, we are dealing with the microservice. That's why we need to set up the Docker part and container or everything here. So the stage is for building and pushing the build image to Docker Hub. So this is a step, and we need to define the script. And this is the Jenkins part. Okay, Jenkins syntax to define the tool name and everything. So here you can see the tool name we define here. This is the credential ID for the Docker Hub. We configure the credential ID. Okay, we need to configure the credential ID under Jenkins, so the Jenkins can interact with the Docker Hub. Docker Hub for pushing whenever the push happen. So this is a command to pushing our build image. So before that, the Jenkins user tried to access Docker Hub, and we need to configure the tool name as well. Okay, this is a tool name, so we need to configure the tool name under Jenkins tool section. So this is a name I configured. Both names same. Okay, for the credential I use the same name, and for the tool also I'm use same name. That's why here mentioned the Docker. Then under the as such, we need to define the command, the same command that we are going to building Docker image and pushing Docker image. So Docker build the name. This is a way we mention the build name. Okay, so we don't need to tag using another. Don't use another command like Docker tag or anything, because I'm used my name as like this. My name, then the application name /. So this is my Docker Hub name. So we can directly push. And here you can see build tag. We define the build tag here. This is a format $, curly open, build tag capital. That means whenever the pipeline build, okay, for example, we build pipeline first time and we got all the information, right? That Jenkins will go through all the stages, right? So whenever the stage for the building process, if we using build tag, that means for the first build, we can see the image with the build tag. So we can quickly identify this image belongs to the first build or second build like that. Or else we can use latest, okay? So we can see all that build. You can see the image as latest like that. So coming to this stage, what will happen? There is a Docker file belongs to the repository. Okay, we clone one repository, right? So the same repository, there is a Docker file Docker file there. So the Jenkins will take that Docker file and build the Docker file and push the Docker image to the repository that we configure within the Jenkins. So next to last stage, again we need to scan it. Okay, here code analysis completed, then dependency check completed. Now we need to do one more thing, that is the last stage, image scanning. Because here we have an image, right? Using Docker build, we got an image and we need to scan that image as well, okay, before deploying to production. So we use Travis tool. image scanning using Trivy. Trivy is a open source tool to scanning build image. Okay. So what will have, I mean, Trivy will checking that entire image and entire image layers. Okay. Different layers are there coming to image and it will scanning all that image layer. And if any vulnerabilities or anything there, then it will, I mean, the Trivy will gives a logs or gives a result. So here you can see using Trivy. This is a command, okay? After installing Trivy, this Trivy we install in that same EC2 machine, okay? Where we are running or building everything. So this is a command, Trivy image. Then we need to define the image name with the build tag that we got above, right? Whenever we building the Docker image. Then it will write that image, sorry, that the scanned result, okay, under the directory, sorry, under the name drivey.txt. So we can open that text file and see the result as well. Then everything seems good. It will go, we can go to the next stage. That is deploy. This pipeline is for two environment. Okay, one is QAT or dev. We can name anything here. And this is for named as QA environment, and the one for the production. Okay. So in this pipeline, we can see two environment we define. One is deploy the same the application to development, and after that deploy to production. So for deployment to development, we can see that application deployed to Docker environment. See the Docker command we define here, right? So this is we need to define this commands under the step Docker remove file name dev container. That means if any container name of the dev, it will remove, okay, before run the latest script container. If the container is not there, it will skip that part and deploy the container with the same name. So whenever we, for example, now we deploy the same container, right? So the second will happen. Some other changes are there, so we need to run the pipeline again. So the second time, it will looking for the dev container, right? So first it will remove, then only it will create the new container. That's why we use here the remove part, okay, Docker remove. Then finally, we can deploy the application to Kubernetes. For deploying Kubernetes, this is a step, this is a stage, and we need to define the command and script under the steps. So here we need to define Jenkins syntax, okay, that's why here using script. So this is a syntax with the kube config. We need to define the name, cluster name. Here we don't define anything, but we define the credential here. Okay, see credential ID, Kubernetes. So this is the credential of Kubernetes kube config file. Okay, so this is the part Kubernetes credentials. Okay, where actually in that Groovy script we can see a lot of place we can see credential, right? So the credential means under the Jenkins, there's a part that is credentials. So under the credential, we need to create that specific credentials actually. For here, we created a credential that is KATS. So uh, here we define the KATS. That means we already created that Kubernetes credentials under the Jenkins credentials. So, and whenever we creating that credentials under Jenkins credential, we need to define that ID. So I'm used to the KATS, that's ID. So that we need to define here under credential ID, that is K8s. Similar way above you can see Docker credential ID. That is Docker. This is for the Docker Hub, okay? Docker Hub, not Docker, because Docker running on the same machine, okay, same EC2 machine where Jenkins runs. So that Jenkins can authenticate Docker. We'll just provide that specific permission. That's all. And coming to here, Kubernetes is a separate application, separate service, right? It is not belongs to this Jenkins mission or anything. For that, we need to take, for interacting with the Jenkins, we need to take Kubernetes kubeconfig file. Kubeconfig file. So we can take that Kubernetes configuration file, okay, and we need to keep that file, or we need to provide that file under the Jenkins credential whenever we creating the ID K8s. So this is a Kubernetes config file, is that file that contain that Kubernetes configurations. Configuration means the name, the cluster, and the cluster API keys. Lot of stuffs are there. Okay, so using the key, we interacting with our cluster remotely. And finally, after authenticating using the credential ID, the Kubernetes will, the Jenkins will run the command, that is kubectl apply file name deployment.yaml. This file actually belongs to the same GitHub repo. So coming to the GitHub repo, okay, there's manifest look like this, okay, where the image defined part. So the image we need to define the same image, okay, like this. Pet shop latest. That means we define the tag as latest, okay. So the first time we build, okay, consider like that. So that that's the first image. We got the first image, and that image pushed to Docker Hub, right? So that image will be automatically, not automatically actually, that we define as the latest, okay. If we define latest, the same we need to define under the YAML manifest. So whenever that second build happen, consider like we build that pipeline also, pipeline again, and a Docker build happen. Whenever we run the pipeline, these script, Jenkins will go through the stages, right? So coming to the build stage, it will create another image, okay? Any code change happen, that means some new build happened there, right? So we define the Docker build part, and we got a new image. But coming to Kubernetes manifest, that we define as the latest, that means it will only take on the latest image. That means the latest build image taking from Docker Hub. You got this part, right? All of you who are confused.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
So where we gonna keep this
Sorry, come again.
script? This groovy script, are we gonna publish this groovy script in the Jenkins part?
Yeah. This script we need to provide to Jenkins to create the pipeline.
Okay.
So similar way we, creating Groovy script. So for example, if we add one more stage, so we need to add stage, take this part and name like what purpose for the specific stage, and we need to define this commands for doing the specific job. Or else we need to remove any job, any stage. We can directly remove that drive scanning part. So at last you can see we need to close out all braces, okay? So this brace for the stages and this for the pipeline. here 1, 2, 3. We need to close it. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more there. That for that script part.
So if you are like keeping this in the Jenkins script, like Groovy script, there,
Right,
if you
right,
want to make any changes in the future, like add or remove something, you have to log into Jenkins and you have to modify there itself.
right, 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 right.
Or else, can we keep this in the like GitHub itself so that if you like make any changes, if we commit it,
Right,
it
right, right.
can
There,
trigger.
two options are there. That's also as per the recommend, we can do that specific things. So coming to Jenkins configuration, okay. Jenkins configuration, where we configuring that pipeline, okay. So coming to Jenkins configure, for example, we are going to create a project like test app, then it will landing to the Jenkins configuration. So there actually we need to define that pipeline, this pipeline, okay. Pipeline Ruby syntax. So two options there. One is we can directly put all that configuration there, or else we can check out from the SCCM also. So that we need to define as per the requirement. If we select SCCM, we need to define that repository as where these files belongs. So in that case, whenever we need to change anything on that specific Groovy script, we don't go or we don't open that Jenkins configuration. So we can directly do from that SCCM, I mean from the GitHub. So for example, we need to add or remove anything. Just open the GitHub repository and open the file, Jenkins file, and edit the file. So it will apply in that Jenkins configuration as well. Because some changes happening in the GitHub, the Jenkins will automatically take the new changes, right? And it will starting the build process as well.
Like you're working, right? What real time scenario are they gonna keep the Jenkins like this configuration, everything in the Jenkins, or will they gonna provide the like a GitHub path so that it can.
Both cases are there. Both cases for small small case project, we can provide that everything in the Jenkins, or else some projects we keep under the SCCM parts also. So we need to define. So if we two cases, one we keeping the all that the script in SCCM, I mean GitHub, or else we keep all that file in Jenkins. So whenever we need to edit the file, we need to go to the corresponding part if where the code belongs. That's all.
This is for the Java, right? We are using Maven for that one. What in case of like
Hmm.
Node, if you are going with the Node,
Node.js.
Node.js application, then
Yeah, npm. Coming to Node, I have Node-based application. We need to configure that specific tools, or first we need to add the plugins in Jenkins. That is for the Node. Then we need to configure the Node under the tools. Then we need to specify the Node command, okay, instead of mun command. I will show you Node application as well, okay, after the Java based one.
okay. So these steps will remain same. All the stuff like if you are using Node.js or Java, that part will differ, right? And
No, no, no. The part actually coming to microservice, these all the parts are same. Only the build process will change, right? For example, how we will build the Java application, compile the code, test the code, and build using Maven tool. These three things. So coming to Node.js, it's different, like npm, install npm, clean, some other commands for different applications using different tools as well.
okay,
So that we need to define under the stage.
okay.
And coming to microservice, you can see what are the stages. Okay, from here, okay. So these are the parts for the Maven, sorry, Java case, Java. And this is common, this is common. From here to bottom, everything is common, okay? Like dependency checking, common, Docker part, common. Because these all the things belongs to the Docker file, right? So for example, there is a Docker file there, so that Docker files for the specific Java. So all that things, included in the Docker file. For example, for Node.js application, there is another Docker file for the specific case. So that Docker file contain Node.js things. Then the first time the build process will change. Okay, that specific application build process. Here you can see Maven compile, Maven test. So that will be changed when coming to some other language-based project. The rest of things are mostly same.
So for the agent part, you have said that we have to go with whatever the node, like a slave one. How we can know, like there might be multiple slave nodes too, right? How
Hmm.
can we know like which node we need to define here so that it will run on that node?
That actually we need to identify or, for example, coming to real world scenario, we need to check which agent that we need to use. Okay, so otherwise, some other projects they will dedicate some. For example, different stages are there. Okay, for dev there, UAT, production. So coming to master slave, so we have a controller, Jenkins controller that will run on a Jenkins EC2 machine. And for the slave, we have three EC2 machine. One for dev, one for UAT, one for prod. So which pipeline are we are going to do? For example, this is for a production pipeline, right? So we need to define agent name is prod. So the specific pipeline taking the machine for execution, the slave machine, the production machine. So similar way we can categorize and define the name whenever we need. So we can ensure that that specific process happening on the specific machine.
Is there a mechanism like something we can go with dynamically, like providing dynamically rather than specifying prod and dev
Any,
and any? Okay.
that is any. Yeah. Any means it will take any of that. If we have slave, then it will take any of the slave.
Okay.
If it did not define anything, it will run on the same controller. That's all.
Oh, if we don't define agent, then it will run on the
No, no, no.
master.
We need to define the agent. Agent any means it will looking for any of the agent. Okay. In this case, we don't create any agent. That means it will run on the same EC2 machine.
Okay. If there is
Where
any
the
other, okay, slave, then it will go and run on any of the, okay.
right. So that's a way we define the slave part. Or else, um, these slaves, okay, consider like if two way we can configure slave. Okay, one is mm, directly create a EC2 machine and set as that slave, or else we can, for a fast build process, we mostly go with the Docker slaves. There's a Docker agent there, okay, for the build process. So, for example, we need to configure EC2 inside the EC2, install the Docker and make that Docker. Okay, there's an image for that process. Okay, so we need to run that image and it will create a Docker container and we need to define that Docker container as agent. So if you select a Docker agent slave, it will more fast.
Because it's a container and it's a lightweight
Right,
and it
right.
can go fast. But
Lightweight,
for the heavy
lightweight.
like enterprise application, we can't use a Docker, right? We have to go with the virtual machines.
Right. As per the requirement, we need to, I mean, first is we need to study the project and we need to conclude it will good for Docker agent or virtual machine like that.
Okay.
Some other cases, we set up the same under the Kubernetes parts as well. Set up the Kubernetes and we install Jenkins in one of the node and some other pods. This is Jenkins pod and other pod will be the agent like that. Pod for the agent pod. So we can install Jenkins and run on Jenkins under the Kubernetes parts as well. There's an official image there. Got it.
Is there any format like this? This will be a format for everything, right? It's a common, and based on the application, we're going to change the code.
Yes. Also, as per the recommend, we need to add more things.
More stages, or yeah, we can remove or add more.
The requirement things we need to add.
So all these requirements, does we need to collaborate with the developers and get the
Right. To know their requirement and everything.
okay.
That is simple actually because, for example, mm, some cases they will write the Docker file, okay, the developer. So first we need to check the Docker file and we can see what are the things they define inside the Docker file. So we can quickly identify. Then we need to know which language they're using. So we need to know how the language locally work, okay. For example, if we run the application, Java application, I mean, using a EC2 machine, okay, how we will run that application locally, not using pipeline or containerized. So we have the code, right? The code there. And we first we need to clone the code using git clone to the EC2 machine. And we can see that we need to go to the directory that all the application contents. Okay, so first we need to go to the directory, CD, the cloned directory. Then we can see a lot of files there, right? There are package.json file, application source file there, pictures, lot of files are there. So from that directory, we need to run, or before we need to install the mun command. And then we can run mun, the same commands like manually run, compile, test, then that build, clean build. So we can see it will build the image using the format .var. So take that .var file and put this file to the directory. For Java, we can use Tomcat server, okay, Tomcat server. So there is a directory for the Tomcat server like web app that ending with the web app. So we need to keep the var file or we need to copy the var file to the directory web app. So the Tomcat will take in the application code and serve to the requester. This is web server, okay. So the Tomcat will serving the web content to the requesters. So we need to know how this application runs locally, okay, before the container part. So we can, in that case, we will get more idea, okay. So say similar thing we need to do on, I mean, we need to specify on the pipeline and we can define on that container part as well. For the HTML application, we all know, right? So we need to index original file and the rest of the file we need to keep to the Apache directory, that is var HTML. So for the Tomcat, it's a web app directory, okay. Before web app, something there I missed actually. It's var HTML or web app, something like that. That ending with the web app. Got it, right? All of you. Any doubt?
Was Groovy invented at the same time as Jenkins, or was it something independent?
Groovies belongs to Jenkins actually. It's a native language.
Native to Jenkins, okay.
All good, right?
Yes.
Groovy is not native, okay? It's a general purpose scripting language, but Jenkins leverage, not exclusively for Jenkins. So we can wind up, right? I'm planning to start that Docker part actually, to start that pipeline. So tomorrow, I think we can complete Docker and Kubernetes. If we have time.
Okay.
So you will get the idea how to interact with Docker and how to interact with the, setuping, Sonar Cube, a lot of stuff. So the interaction with the Kubernetes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for the
Then,
class.
yeah,
Good morning to you. Good night to everybody here.
good night all.
Bye.